Illegal immigrants from receiving Medicaid. You might remember that was a provision that was stricken from the bill by the Senate parliamentarian, the referee in these matters here. And also, the Senate has voted 99-1 to take out a provision imposing an AI moratorium by the states and local governments for the next decade. That was taken out. That's something that was not in the original House bill, and that's something that will satisfy the House of Representatives.
The Senate voted 99-1 early Tuesday to strip a provision in the bill that would have stopped states from regulating AI for 10 years. Tennessee Republican Senator Marsha Blackburn argues Congress cannot be trusted to regulate AI.
This body has proven that they cannot legislate on emerging technology. It is frustrating.
A conservative activist says he remains pessimistic that the Supreme Court will ultimately rule with President Trump when it comes to the issue of birthright citizenship.
There has been much celebration in the conservative camp since the U.S. Supreme Court ruled 6-3 that left-wing rogue district judges do not have the authority to impose nationwide injunctions against virtually everything the president was elected to do. Justice Amy Coney Barrett wrote a strong opinion for the majority, which some observers believe was a big step in the right direction to help restore some of her conservative credibility. Gary Bowers, chairman of the Campaign for Working Families. He is not confident that Barrett will rule on Trump's side when it comes to the actual merits of the birthright citizenship case.
On this, I remain pessimistic. I'm encouraged about this opinion and the justice that wrote it for the court, but I am not at all certain, and nor am I optimistic that she will be just as pleasing to us when she is looking at the specific case of birthright citizenship.
So Bowers says it could come down to the Chief Justice.
So you take the three liberals, and let's say Barrett votes with them, that's 4. So you've got 5 more justices, 4 of them pretty darn good, and then Roberts. And I'm not confident that Roberts won't take a position on this that will end up disappointing conservatives.
I'm Chad Groening.
Millions of Americans are expected to be traveling for the 4th of July holiday weekend as hundreds of flights have already been delayed. Todd Pyro reporting.
More than 600 flights currently delayed, 250 already canceled so far today. This all comes as AAA is expecting a record-breaking number of Americans to travel over the 4th of July holiday weekend. Between June 28th and July 6th, more than 72 million people across the U.S. are projected to travel at least 50 miles or more from their homes. That's nearly 2 million more than last year. And for the more than 61 million people who will drive to their destinations, they're going to be looking to take advantage of low gas prices. Current average price for gas in the U.S., $3.18 per gallon.
More news online at afn.net and the AFN mobile app. I'm Rusty Pugh.
AFA Action takes attacks on the family seriously. The enemies of the family constantly employ new tactics to try to sneak past our radar. They know if we stand together, their evil plans will fail. Your gift to AFA Action allows us to stay vigilant against their onslaught. And if you give this month, you'll receive access to the Cultural Institute video When Your Faith is Illegal by Frank Harbor on AFA Stream as our thanks. You can make your gift today at afaaction.net.
Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildmon, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for listening to AFR. We like to thank you every day for listening to AFR. Today's Tuesday, July the 1st, 2025. In case you were wondering, I'm Tim Wildman with Wesley Wildman. Good morning, Wesley.
Good morning. Let me also say thank you, too, from where I'm sitting in the studio here on the left, but not on the left.
Yes, you are to the left of me, but let me assure our listeners that's not the case politically.
That's right. That's right. So,
I'm right wing, and then I look out and I see Wesley way down the road, to my right.
Yes.
All right, Christopher Woodward. Good morning, Chris.
I'm on the left, but I do not align with Zimbram Mendani or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we're going to get to that.
Were you rapping right there, Chris?
Yes,
what
yes.
were you doing there?
It's a skill.
Huh? And Ray Pritchard. Good morning, Ray.
Hey, good morning, Tim. And coming to you from somewhere to the right of Genghis Khan here in Kansas City.
Now, I was listening to you and Brent Creeley, our producer, talk off air, obviously, before the show started, and you moved your equipment around, had to readjust it or something there? Our sound equipment?
I have this little Comrex, which is about the size of an old, a cassette tape recorder, which our young listeners have no idea what that is, but that's what it's the size of, a small thing. And over the weekend when I'm not on the radio, I move it into a closet for safekeeping, and somewhere in there the dials got all finagled around, and we had to untwist them to make the broadcast go.
Now, there's a word you don't hear every day, finagle.
Yeah.
That's
Spell it.
Finagle.
Or if you could,
something.
yeah, help us and put it in a rap song.
Finagle. Chris, go ahead and spell it for us.
Finagle.
Oh, just like it sounds. Finagle.
Just like it. Finagle.
Unlike most words that are a little complicated, they're not like it's not spelled like it sounds.
Cattywampus.
It's always got a silent letter in there.
Cattywampus.
Right.
I hadn't heard that one in a while either, Chris.
We're going to make old words great again.
Hey, Fred Jackson, our colleague, our brother, who came to us from the Great White North, otherwise known as the 51st State.
Northern North Dakota.
That was bad. Fred says, make sure you wish everyone Happy Canada Day.
Oh.
Hey.
So it's Happy Canada Day, everybody.
Hey, Canada. Hey.
They do have a very pretty flag, Canada does, don't they?
Yes.
The maple leaf, yeah.
The red maple leaf with the red sides and the white middle. It's really
Do you guys remember in the early 90s when the Braves were playing the Blue Jays in the World Series, and there was a, quote, scandal because the color guard just before the game was flying the Canadian flag upside down. They didn't realize it, and it was a big stink. And I remember somebody I was watching that game with went, well, that's the way the leaf hangs down from the tree. What's wrong with that?
Wait, and now, did they do this in Atlanta?
Yeah, it was when it was in Atlanta.
Yeah.
The color guard from the Armed Services comes out with the different national flags.
They didn't know.
And they were flying the Canadian flag wrong way. The wrong way.
Oh, that's a bad mistake.
For people that have never seen the Canadian flag, it's a maple leaf pointing upward, and they were flying it where the maple leaf was pointing down to the ground.
Does that mean Canada was in distress? Or does that mean a couple of rednecks didn't know the difference?
The rednecks.
Maybe a little both.
rednecks.
Now, the Blue Jays did win that series, so maybe that was what inspired them to beat the Braves.
Yeah. Anyway, Happy Canada Day, Fred says. Wanted everybody to know that.
Not from Canada, though. Where is he? Is he?
Oh, he's from
Fred?
Canada.
No, I'm sorry. Physically, currently.
Oh, no. He's not in Canada right now.
Right. He's.
Unless he flew up
Sure
there
sounded
last
like-
night.
He's about 20 yards
That way.
direction.
He's right down the hall.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you
All
can
right.
go see him anytime today or tomorrow. All right, so this Canada Day, and then we got July 4th, the Independence Day for the U.S. coming up on Friday. Well, again, we appreciate you listening to American Family Radio. A lot to talk about today. What's the first story, Chris?
Well, I want to begin with some breaking news, and Fox has this. Some other news outlets have something similar as well. So I'm reading from Fox News, which I've posted this on our Today's Issues Facebook page. According to Fox, 2 Chinese nationals face serious charges after they allegedly acted as agents of the People's Republic of China's government to collect intelligence about U.S. Navy service members and bases, while also recruiting other military members to carry out tasks for China's main foreign intelligence service, otherwise known as the Ministry of State Security, or MSS. The Department of Justice says Chinese nationals traveled to Houston on a tourist visa in April 2025, and they were arrested a few days ago. Both individuals face charges of overseeing and carrying out various clandestine intelligence tasks in the U.S. on behalf of the Communist Chinese government. This, guys, comes just a few weeks after Chinese nationals were charged with conspiracy and smuggling a dangerous biological pathogen into the U.S. for their work at a University of Michigan laboratory. So, long story short, the Chinese communists are up to no good, it would seem.
Yeah, it was the FBI arrested these two. They're Chinese nationals, meaning they are Chinese, and they came here on a tourist visa. and then they were busted by the FBI today, I guess it was. Maybe yesterday's story's just breaking. And they wanted to, Ray, did you read this?
Just before we went on the air.
Yeah. And they did something called now I don't know if how these guys were being monitored, or if somebody spilled the beans on them who they were trying to work with to get information on our military bases. Isn't that the way it goes? So anyway, we'll see what else happens today. They are also accused of a dead drop. I don't know what that means. A dead drop payment of at least $10,000. So they were trying to bribe people to get them information, right?
Yeah, and I'm looking.
Yeah, isn't that like the old spy movies where where there's a box somewhere? It's like you go to a park and then there's this little box, and you put the $10,000 in there wrapped up, and you walk away, and then somebody else comes and picks it up. I mean, that's old school.
Yeah, this involved a backpack with cash.
The picture, the backpack, and the cash doesn't look like they're going shopping either. It's a Ziploc bag with $100.
I'll just say this: if I'm going to sell out my country, you're going to have to give me more than 10 grand.
Yeah, that's right.
It's going to have to be more than a down payment on a house. You know what I'm saying?
And another picture, one of the pictures I'm seeing here is a picture that appears to be they have 2 children. Yep. Yeah. And so they look like they have they come over here. It looks like they have come over here. Came over here posing as a family.
Yeah.
But working for the government. So.
We don't know any more about this story than what we just mentioned, but that's the headline on Fox News. Chinese nationals caught after $10,000 cash drop in covert military operation.
Also, now, Kash Patel's got a quote right here. He says individuals charged with acting on behalf of a hostile foreign intelligence service, part of the Chinese Communist Party, broader effort to infiltrate and undermine our institutions. Thanks to the outstanding coordination of our partners, including the NCIS, we disrupted those efforts and sent a clear message. The United States will not tolerate espionage on American soil. Final sentence.
I had no idea Gibbs was involved.
What? Gibbs?
I wasn't the only one thinking that.
NCIS.
Huh? I was today years old when I found out NCIS is real.
Yeah, right.
Okay, who played Gibbs?
Mark Harmon.
Yeah. Okay. I was thinking of Mark Harmon.
But now I got to tell you, all these years of reading news stories, this is the first time I've actually seen NCIS mentioned in a real story.
Yeah.
I know they're a real entity and they do work, Naval Criminal Investigative Service, but I think Ed said before NCIS came on, I'm talking about the original one with Gibbs and Mark Harmon starring as Gibbs and all the other characters there. I think Ed said he had no idea so many sailors died around Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
all the time, because that's what they were investigating.
Yeah. And now they've got like spinoffs in other parts of the world. They have
NCIS
New Orleans,
Australia,
down in Miami,
Los Angeles, NCIS Los Angeles, NCIS New Orleans, NCIS Australia, NCIS Hawaii, I think.
I saw Sandy Rios and her husband Bruce one time at an event, and we were having dinner. And I asked Bruce, I said, "Hey, you worked for the FBI. Do you watch shows that are that involve the FBI and plots and stuff? Is it real?" And he was like, "No. First of all, they walk into the scene of what is supposed to be a bombing, and they're like, oh, it was a dirty bomb, and they know like right off the bat." And he was like, "Truth be told, you would be on your hands and knees looking at stuff with like tweezers."
Yeah, but you can't show that for an hour.
No,
people wouldn't watch. You know what I'm saying?
They solve a crime in 45 minutes with commercials.
That's right.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
With commercials. That's right.
I've watched that FBI show on, I guess it's CBS, the show called FBI. Of course, it's a reboot. I don't know if you call it a reboot. The FBI show from the 70s, was that Everett Zimbalist? Remember him?
Ephraim Zimbalist?
Wasn't that his name? Anyway, he was a major star in the 60s or 70s with that FBI show. But the new FBI show, I watched it a few times. And every other show is about a white supremacist group.
Right.
I'm just going,
Right.
come on, guys. Let's come up with a new.
That's right.
Can we come up with a new storyline? I mean, do
you're
one
right.
white.
You need
You
to
could
work
do
a
one
little
white busting one white supremacist group, but like every other show, really.
Yeah.
Go ahead. What are you going to say?
I was going to say you nailed it with the name. Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. was the guy on the original.
Oh, he was a major star, major television star. Back in when did that original FBI?
I
Does it
looked it
say?
up. It said it aired from 1965 to 1974.
Okay, well I was right about that era. I remember my dad watched that show. It was called FBI. That and Dragnet.
Yeah.
That and Dragnet. What's the famous line from Dragnet, Ray? Sergeant Friday, come on, man. Sergeant Friday, what would he say? Okay, here you go. I'm going to give the answer. What do you know?
Is it Just the Facts?
Just the facts, ma'am.
Just the facts.
Yeah, just the
I
facts.
saw that on like Nick at Night or something.
Just the facts, ma'am.
I've seen some of those old ones.
Yeah, those two guys, those two detectives, they were just party animals.
So that's where that
there,
comes
those two
from.
guys. They were wild and crazy guys right there.
All
right.
All right, we've gotten off.
Next story, Chris.
We are learning more about
Are we learning
the man,
more, Chris?
Yes, we are learning more about the man police in Idaho say opened fire on firefighters that were responding to a fire he may have set. Yesterday, I think our Steve Jordahl was the first to bring in the name of the accused gunman. That would be 20-year-old Wes Rowley. Now, the update with this is, according to the Associated Press, 20-year-old Wes Rowley was actually, at one point in his life, aspiring to be a firefighter. And a 20-year-old man's life appeared to have begun to unravel in the months before authorities say he fatally shot 2 firefighters and severely wounded a third over the weekend.
This was a horrific story that happened over the weekend where what happened was somebody started a fire. This is in Coeur d'Alene,
yes.
He
Idaho.
started the fire.
Do I know?
I believe he started.
Yeah, allegedly.
Oh,
yeah. But it
Okay.
has to be. It'll be proven. But yes, he started the fire. But you have to say allegedly till it's documented or proven. It may have been already. I don't know. But so this fella started the fire. Turns out this 20-year-old we're talking about here. And then, so he drew the firefighters to the scene, and then he shot 2.
Yes.
And you're wondering, well, he shot more than 2.
Yeah.
He killed 2. Killed 2. And you're wondering, what in the world would motivate somebody to do such a heinous thing? I mean, who has an axe to grind with firefighters, you're wondering? And as it turns out, if the story is true, his motivation would be, he was obviously a deranged person, 20 years old, so he was denied getting into the firefighting business, so to speak. That's not the way you phrase it, but and so he had a vendetta against firefighters for that reason. Is that true?
Correct.
That's what they're saying.
The AP interviewed a former roommate of Wes's by the name of T.J. Franks Jr., and he told the AP that Wes shaved off his long hair and started to, quote, kind of go downhill in the last few months.
I didn't know. One of my best friends was a firefighter for many years, but I didn't know, Ray or Chris or Wesley, that firefighters, maybe this is an Idaho or a Coeur d'Alene rule, you have a height? Is that what they were saying? That's what I was reading.
That's what I read.
Some people wouldn't like it if you have long hair.
Yeah.
But there was some thought he was too short.
I've just never heard of that before as a qualification for a firefighter. Huh?
Yeah, I've got.
Have you?
I've got friends that are that height that are firefighters here locally in Tupelo. So that's new information to me. There was a third firefighter that he shot also that is injured and is I think
in the hospital.
In the hospital. So there's that, and then he ended up taking his own life.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, that's we were waiting on what the motivation was for this guy, again deranged.
Because your first thought maybe terrorism, something, but it's not that. This is derangement is a good word for it, Tim. And he's a young guy too, 20. He's got a lot of his life in front of him. So he tries out to be a firefighter, and they turn him down. Who knows what the height thing, how that figured into it. But there are guys who are turned down for police and for firefighters who come back and who make it later, second time around, third time around. So there's something must have Tim, something must have snapped inside of his brain. Tim, that's a particularly evil thing to do, to set a fire,
a trap,
lure
really.
the fire, a trap, and then to kill 2 firefighters, the very people you said you wanted to be part of.
Usually, and I'm not blaming anybody here, but usually in cases like this, there are tips that people who know the people who commit crimes like this see happening in their lives. And of course, you can't have somebody arrested or committed on a hunch or observing somebody acting strangely. I guess it's just, you know what I'm saying? But after the fact, a lot of people go, yeah, that guy was acting weird or strange, or he's saying crazy things, know. You're listening to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Next story, Chris.
I do not have any sound from the president himself, but President Donald Trump is in Florida today.
He doesn't talk much.
Yeah, he still
so you're not going to get much out of him.
He's a big, beautiful, quiet man. But President Trump is in Florida today touring what is being referred to as Alligator Alcatraz. This is a facility that was already in existence in the Everglades area of Florida. And there's a partnership between the federal government and the state of Florida through Governor Ron DeSantis and Attorney General James Uthmeyer, to which people that are illegals apprehended in the country are going to be sent to this facility in Florida, which James Uthmeyer would say is actually going to be one of several operations they plan to announce or roll out later this year. I've got some audio, though, of Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, talking about Trump's trip to what is being called Alligator Alcatraz. Clip 1.
Trump will travel to the great state of Florida to attend the opening of a new illegal alien detention center located at Dade Collier Training and Transition Airport alongside Secretary Kristi Noem, Governor Ron DeSantis, Congressman Byron Donalds, and other state and local leaders. We hope to see many of you there. The facility is in the heart of the Everglades and will be informally known as Alligator Alcatraz. There is only one road leading in, and the only way out is a one-way flight. It is isolated and surrounded by dangerous wildlife and unforgiving terrain. The facility will have up to 5,000 beds to house, process, and deport criminal illegal aliens. This is an efficient and low-cost way to help carry out the largest mass deportation campaign in American history.
I'm in.
So is this going to take the place of sending them to El Salvador?
This is basically where you're going to go until we actually fly you out.
Deport you?
It's going to be like a temporary place.
A process center.
All right. Well, Jenna Ellis, our own Jenna Ellis, has had an invitation, and she went down there for this, and she'll be on.
It's like a reporter.
It should be on tomorrow. She'll be on.
Yeah.
She'll be on with us tomorrow. Yeah. She went. She got an invitation, I think, from Governor DeSantis' office to attend.
Cool.
To see this facility in South Florida. Again, the President of the United States is down there, and it's more or less a photo op to emphasize his administration's commitment to deporting people who are here illegally, namely criminals who are here illegally. And I guess you want to send them to a place where they can't escape.
Yeah.
And if you've got the Everglades all around you, with one way in and one way out, you're not going to escape. Well, maybe you could.
Well,
maybe
even if you do,
not going to
right. You're putting your life in your own hands, right? When swimming with the alligators, literally.
Yeah.
And the crocodiles.
Yeah. Listen, I went to the Everglades. I guess Alice and I went down there 2 years ago, maybe. We had to go down to a conference, ironically, at Trump's hotel down there. Doral. I think I got that right. Doral. I think anyway. So we did a day excursion over to the Everglades, which is only about like an hour from our hotel, and did the you get on the airboat.
Yeah.
Go out there like Gentle Ben.
Right.
Crocodile Dundee.
He did the airboat too.
Mm-hmm, he did.
So the fella took us about 20 minutes out on the airboat through the Florida Everglades, and we saw the alligators in the wild, and that's a That's something to behold, and you're
something
just
to stay in the boat.
Yeah, you stay in the. That's right. You stay in the boat. Keep
That's
me in,
right.
That's all I care about. You keep me
your
in
hands
the boat.
and feet inside the boat at all times.
Keep your hands inside, right?
Yes, and no sudden turns, please.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
This guy's going out the boat and never to be heard from again. So, it was what I'm saying is that Everglades is daunting as far as a place in nature that's intimidating. I guess you could say.
You're a lot safer if you're an illegal alien down there. You're a lot safer inside that facility than you are on the outside.
Yeah. Have you ever done that? Have you ever been on a?
I have been to the Everglades and been on those airboats, and they took us down and showed us went zooming. And as you know, Tim, those airboats, they zoom.
Yes.
Right through. Yeah. I mean, you're really going fast. Keep your hands inside. Alligators, crocodiles, snakes.
Is it the what is it? The Burmese python? That's
Burmese python, right?
The Burmese python, which is not native to South Florida.
No,
it was brought over here from Burma, I guess. I don't know, but it's a real problem because they are top of the food chain, and there's no predators to devour them.
Right.
Except an occasional alligator, who wins that fight. But so it's been a real problem as far as the ecosystem there in South Florida.
I'm looking at some of the other animals that are in the Everglades. You got the panther. You got a black bear. I mean, so you might survive the gator, but God help you with all the other species.
Right.
And you heard us right. We're sending our own Jenna Ellis down there. So I hope she's listening now, because I don't know if we told her all that was down there.
Yeah,
well,
stay safe, Jenna.
I don't know who's
stay safe, Jenna. That's right.
I don't know who's going to be the movie star to make the movie Escape from Alligator Alcatraz, but I'm
it's
sure
coming.
It's
coming.
It's coming.
Well, she's going to be on tomorrow.
Yes, to talk about this.
Yep. She's going to give us her firsthand report there. So
I saw on the television Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida. I saw obviously President Trump and Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem. Is that what it's called? Secretary?
Department of Homeland Security Secretary.
Kristi Noem. And then some other dignitaries were on hand there. All right, we'll be back after this time out. Sandy Rios will be joining us as well coming up momentarily. You're listening to the radio program Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildmon.
Back more than 100 years ago, a father gave his son sufficient money with which to attend college until he earned his diploma. The father told his son that this was all the money he was to have, said that if the son spent it wisely, it would be more than enough for him to graduate from college. The young boy took the money and went off to school. At the end of the first year, he returned home and told his father that he'd spent all the money and needed more in order to return to school. To the young man's surprise, his father refused to give him another penny. He told him that he'd already given him plenty of money to go to college on, and that there would be not another penny forthcoming. Stunned, the boy found that all the props had been removed from beneath him. While living it up in his freshman year, he never thought that his father would refuse to give him more money. His father had it, and he was going to have a good time on it. But now the money source was gone. He had to sink or swim totally on his own merits. There are many who would criticize the father for his action. In today's modern society, there are those who would claim that the father's action would destroy the boy's personality, and that he should continue to support the boy no matter what he did. Other folks would defend the boy's right to more money on educational grounds, that the boy had a right to seek his own education as he saw fit. I guess for a large number of folks today, the father's action was totally wrong. They send their kids off to school and continue to supply the funds no matter what Junior does or what grades he makes. They blame the teachers if Junior flunks the course and blame the establishment if he gets caught breaking the rules. Junior isn't wrong, they cry, but the rules are. The rules should be changed to protect Junior. Divinely implanted in each person is a desire to be a responsible person. We're made that way. Sometimes it's necessary to face the worst, even a cross, in order to bring out the best. Somehow I have an idea that the young boy's father took a signal from a higher power. For our Creator tells us there are certain laws that we're to live by, and if we break them, then we must be prepared to pay the penalty. Often, as we have to pay the penalty, we become responsible citizens in His world. Well, the young boy went back to school without any money, worked his way through, graduated at the head of the class, studied law, was elected governor of the state of New York, and became the Secretary of State during the Civil War. He was later responsible for the purchase of some land, which many dubbed Seward's Folly. Today, the folly is known as Alaska. The young boy's name was William Seward. His father's discipline saved him from a possible life of wastefulness. You know, maybe discipline isn't so bad after all.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildmon, a production of the American Family Association.
One thing I ask from the Lord, this only do I seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze on the beauty of the Lord and to seek Him in His temple. Psalm 27:4.
American Family Radio. This is today's issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of today's issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of today's issues.
Hey, welcome back to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. Tim, Wesley, Chris, and Ray. And we thank you for listening to AFR. I was told during the break a training, that's not what you call it, the firefighter, to be a firefighter, you have to go through rigorous, what would you call it?
Training.
The physical qualifications are
tough, really tough.
J.J. Jasper out in the hall said it's one level under being a Navy SEAL, basically.
Yeah.
It's that hard to pass that physical exam because you have to carry stuff. You have to be able to maneuver and go around and go up and be smart. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into being a firefighter.
Obviously, getting some spaces where it's not very easy to get in. So
and you got to deal with the natural inhibition to go into a fire.
Yeah.
You know, you got to overcome that psychologically. But we were talking about this because the story from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho was that this man, 20 years old, who shot and killed the firefighters, he shot and killed two of them after drawing them into a fire he created and then injured, one or two more?
One other.
What the story was that he was, you wondered what the motivation was. It was that he was denied entry into the firefighting profession for whatever reason, and he had an axe to grind for that reason. Now, as I mentioned, and Ray said, I used the right word, deranged. The guy, obviously crazy in the head, doing something like this, which what deranged means. But anyway, so have you ever known firefighters, Ray?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what JJ said. Best of the best, toughest of the tough, bravest of the brave.
Especially the guys who out west, to fight the wildfires, Right. Well, you could say the same thing about city firefighters. I mean, they have to go into buildings that can collapse on them. So it's the same kind of dangerous situation. But those wildfires out west, you read about them. They have to be careful about not getting trapped.
Mm-hmm.
When they get when they go into
the wind starts blowing. The wind can push the fire right over you in a moment's notice.
This particular fire in Idaho, at the bottom of the story, it said it burned about 26 acres. Now, the good news is by late yesterday afternoon, the fire was reasonably contained, and that firefighters had stopped forward progress. But 26 acres is a chunk of land.
Sure. All right, you're listening to Today's Issues. Joining us now is Sandy Rios. Sandy's host of Sandy Rios 24/7, a very popular podcast that we host at afr.net, afr.net. Of course, Sandy was on the air with us for 10 years in the morning with Sandy Rios in the morning on American Family Radio. Sandy, how are you this morning?
Oh, I'm good. Thank you for asking. I just finished doing a really interesting interview with Professor Robert George from Princeton on truth. He's written a new book on truth and how we're in an age of feelings and not truth. It's just a really interesting discussion. So that's what I was doing this morning and enjoying it.
That's an interesting concept. So you mean feelings as opposed to truth? What's the idea there?
Well, the kind of in history of man, there was in the Middle Ages, like the age of faith, where faith was growing, Christianity, and then the next was the age of reason, and they thought that they didn't mix, but the truth is that it is faith and reason that helps us to come to the truth. But now we're kind of in an age of feelings. Mm-hmm. You know that. Remember that woman that after President Trump won in 2016 in this bright green, just screeching on her knees on a street corner? Do you guys remember that?
Oh, yeah.
I think that's like a quintessential example.
It's still a meme.
Of what we're talking about.
It's still a meme.
Yeah, it's still a meme. She became famous in a meme. But I think we'd have to agree that we are, I think it probably applies to all groups of people, including Christians, where we're living in an age of feelings, where we're supposed to be listening to our feelings a lot. And that we all know we think about it, it's really dangerous. So that was my discussion with him.
Yeah, I got you. By the way, this story involving the Chinese spies,
yes, yeah.
These two guys that were arrested today. Did you see that?
You talking to me?
Yes, Sandy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I did.
You sound like Ed from his Boston days. You talking to me?
You're talking to me.
You talking to me? Yes,
you people.
Yes,
you
I'm
people.
speaking with you. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I did see that. The FBI arrested two guys on Friday, and they're two different ones, and they have been spying on U.S. Navy personnel and bases, and they were exchanging something like $10,000 on behalf of the Chinese communists to do whatever it was they were doing. But I think the thing that struck me about this article is that, just a few days ago, the FBI has arrested a whole host of Iranians, including a sniper, I believe, in Arizona. They're doing some good work right now. The FBI is. I think that's great.
Mm-hmm. There was a story. Maybe it's the same story about the Iranians who were came into our country illegally.
That's what I'm speaking.
During the Biden years, how many of them came in? Mm-hmm. And so we don't. They could be this part of. The what do you call it, sleeper cells?
Mm-hmm. Exactly, like the guy in, I think, Arizona who was a sniper, and his ID said he was part of the Iranian. I think it's the IRGC, something like that. I think it's the IRGC. So he had his identity on him to be part of that terrorist operation.
We covered that last week. The ICE agents last week arrested 11 Iranian national illegals over the weekend. That was last weekend. I remember covering that last week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so now they're on to the Chinese, and I'm sure that it's innumerable the amount of people in the country that are doing terrible things. But it is really good, is it not? Encouraging to hear that our law enforcement agencies are really doing some active, dangerous stuff to protect us.
Yeah. So Bruce, rather your husband, we've had him on before, but just so his overview, his overall viewpoint is he served in the FBI for many years. That the FBI is now back on track with President Trump and Kash Patel and the new administration?
I think he would say that they're doing some really good things. Okay. Whether they're really fully back on track yet, probably the jury's out. But I think they're doing, they've fired a lot of bad people. and they are changing the rules and regulations, and they're just tightening the ship. And from our perspective right now, it's really a great move in the right direction. And we'll just see. I mean, the deep state in the FBI is really deep. It's really deep, and there's a lot of resistance, and we don't know about all the ins and outs of that. So I just pray they can prevail and keep their spine, and then also, we don't know how long they're going to be in charge. So, but for right now, they're headed in a really good direction.
Well, when you got Kash Patel and you got Don Bongino, Dan
Bongino,
Dan Bongino. I mean, isn't he the number? He's like the number 2 guy there at the FBI. That's a couple of dynamos.
That's like 1A and 1B.
Yeah,
yeah, well, that's true.
I mean,
Dan's kind of the enforcer.
Yeah,
So Kash is the executive, overseeing everything, and Dan is his enforcer.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't want.
But you can't get things straightened out with those 2 guys, and I don't know that it can be done. Of course, I know what you're saying. The deep state is deep for a reason, and there's a lot of people you have to find out what their motivations are and so forth inside the FBI. After what happened with James Comey and that whole situation, of course, we don't want to relive that again.
Well, and I'm sure you guys talked about this, but they have discovered a whole cache of the actual writings and records of the bad actors, including Comey, and I think also Chris Wray is implicated now. They found a whole bunch of stuff that they thought they had hidden, and they discovered it all. And I remember, I think Kash said, yeah, the irony is they felt the need to write down everything they did because they were kind of boasting, and we found it. So we haven't heard anything, yet on that, but I thought that was pretty cool because we thought they destroyed everything.
I say I don't want to relive that again, but it brings up memories that I got to tell you, the one thing that the FBI did that I thought was just awful during that whole situation when President Trump came into office and James Comey, he took one for the team defending Hillary Clinton. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
when she had the team being the deep state, she had obviously violated the law. I mean, she had a server that she was using for State Department emails that she didn't want monitored, so she put it in her house, and tried to hide it from congressional oversight, I guess you could say, or people who would would monitor it, perhaps. But when they went into, they being the FBI, went into, I call it entrap, General Michael Flynn. Remember that?
Mm-hmm. I sure do.
That was just awful. That whole story was just, the way that was told and the way that went down was just awful.
It was terrible. And also that, Tim, you remember that really started with that meeting the day that President Trump was being inaugurated in the White House.
Yeah.
With Barack Obama and Joe Biden and I think Valerie Jarrett, John Brennan. I'm not sure who else was there.
That was the Hillary Clinton team you're describing there.
Yeah, well, or the Barack Obama team.
General Michael Flynn. What was going to be his role in the White House?
He was the National Security Advisor.
National Security Advisor. He didn't even have time to put new drapes up, and they sent 2 FBI agents in to, I call it entrapment, and question him about something, and he gets to a point where he goes, well, "Do I need a lawyer?" And they said, "No, you don't need a lawyer." And so anyway,
and remember, Tim, just to put fuel on the fire of that. Remember, Comey was interviewed after he got out after he was fired, and maybe sometime in the last since he was fired, and he was doing this interview, and he said the interviewer asked him, "Well, why did those FBI agents go to the White House to talk to him?" And he said, "I sent them."
Yeah.
And the audience, he's bragging, and then they all laughed. But the thing of it was, he knew these agents. These guys, it was Peter Strzok and another agent.
Yeah, they were politically motivated.
And they were doing something that senior agents in their position don't do.
Yeah.
They don't do interviews. And so the whole thing was a setup, and General Flynn knew them, and so he just was completely caught unaware when they
Yeah.
called him last minute and said, "Can we come?" "Oh, sure, guys, come on over." And
Yeah.
so,
And General Flynn, he basically lost his life savings over that whole.
his home, everything, his
Yeah,
kid,
it was
everybody
awful.
threatened. His son and their family lost. They're a very close family. They tried to help their dad, and they
Yeah.
all lost a lot. It's
Yeah.
horrible.
All right, you're listening to Today's Issues. Ray, did you have anything to ask? You want to ask Sandy?
Okay, Sandy.
Yes, Ray.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
Yeah, you know, the whole thing about I want to ask you about Elon Musk and President Trump. You know, it looks like we're going into round two. I mean, Elon Musk is the richest guy in the world, right? Worth, I don't know, couple of $100 billion, $300 billion. I don't know.
He doesn't need to make a house note.
That's right. I mean, he's
He's
unbelievably rich, right? He's everything's taken care of. Okay, so you got the richest man in the world going up against Donald Trump over this big, beautiful bill that they're arguing about in the Senate and has yet to be reconciled with the House. What do you make of round two of the Elon Musk Donald Trump? Is it a lot of sound and fury signifying nothing important at all, or is there something important at stake here?
Well, I think it's important. Not that it's going to change the trajectory of our country, but I think what you have, I heard someone put it this way, and I think it makes a lot of sense. We have an idealist in Elon Musk. He really is an idealist. He's a huge thinker. He really wants things to be right. He has a real sense of right and wrong, except in morality. Doesn't seem to he hasn't caught that one up yet. But he does. He wants things to be right. And he spent so much time and sacrificed so much to start Doge and get this going and get into government, thinking that on the other side of it, they would be successful. And so he is truly committed to saving this country, pulling it back from the brink of a financial disaster. And we're close to that. I don't think we really understand how much on the cliff we are teetering, whether it's the value of the dollar, whether it's our national debt. And then you've got President Trump, the pragmatist, who knows all of that, but he also has all of these other political and other issues that he has to deal with, and personalities and world. He's got a million things buzzing in his mind. Elon does too, about his own work. But we've got an idealist and a pragmatist. And I think that Elon, that whole business, and this is hard. It was hard for me. When I went to D.C., it was hard for me to compromise on things because this is not right. It's not right. But you almost can't operate in that world and be that powerful in your idealism. So President Trump is overriding him with his pragmatism. But I think that both are right. I mean, I think we're in $38 trillion in debt right now. 37 trillion. And the Senate budget just has added, at its current form, they're still debating it. It's almost $1 trillion. They're adding in more of our debt. And so there's a big fight going on about that. And Elon is upset. Now, the other factor is he's upset about the electric car subsidies because they're going to go away. And he's really suffered a lot financially because of coming in to help. His car company, as you know, all these attacks on his cars, and the stocks went down. The stock of the company went down. Tesla, that's what I'm trying to say. And so he's paid a huge price. And now to lose these subsidies, can you imagine how angry he must be? So I see both sides. I do understand.
The thing about President Trump is sometimes his words help, and then sometimes I'm going, what are you doing? Okay, why are you saying this? Of course, I call it good Trump, bad Trump. I've said that before. And, as far as being a president overall, President Trump, I gave him 5 stars. Okay, 5 out of 5 right now, maybe 4.8. Okay, but I mean, as far as the decisions he's made in terms of personnel and policy have been excellent for the most part. But things that he does sometimes that you just go, don't do that. He said this about Elon Musk, and to your point, Ray, I mean, President Trump could just say, I have no comment on that. Okay, he could just say, I wish Elon the best, whatever the case may be. But instead, he was asked about it, and he said, Doge is the monster that might have to go back and eat Elon. Wouldn't that be terrible? He was talking about, he's down at the Everglades,
right,
basically. So, and then he said he gets a lot of subsidies, but Elon was very upset that the EV, this is Trump talking, EV mandate is going to be terminated. His response following a question regarding whether to deport Musk, who is originally from South Africa, Trump responded, I don't know, we'll have to take a look, end of quote. See, that right there, that just is getting gasoline and pouring it on the fire, because then Elon Musk is going to come back and say and get in. It's just going to get uglier, it appears to me. But this is a case where Trump needs to just, say, listen, I deal with 1 million people. Elon Musk was one of them. He did a great job while he was here. I have no comment on this, and we're certainly not going to take a look at deporting him.
Tim, I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you.
You just can't say stuff like. Go ahead, Wesley.
Well, and that definitely could potentially get ugly. But let's talk about the big beautiful bill, okay?
Let's move over. The big. Listen, folks. That's the official title of this.
It is
the big beautiful bill. And to President Trump's defense, what Sandy was talking about with him having to deal with Congress, the Republicans only have like a 3 or 4 vote margin
in the Senate.
4.
No, in the House.
Oh, in the House,
they have
it's very narrow.
They have a 6 vote lead in the Senate, but in the House it's very narrow. Go ahead, Wesley.
Well, I was going to ask Sandy. So, is it true that in this bill, for all intensive purposes, it would defund abortion providers? Yes or no? Or can you elaborate on that?
Well, of course, it's not final, as you well know.
Mhm.
It's the House version was sent to the Senate, and now they are. I don't know if they think they're still in debate. When I got on with you, it was 20 hours they're in debate. So it's a moving target, and then it has to go back to the House. So I want to make it clear. But yes, at this point, my understanding is it has to do with different states will have the ability to. I hope I'm not confusing this with a court decision. But Planned Parenthood, different states, if it's a court decision or that it's in the bill, can defund Planned Parenthood. The states can.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. They can, excuse me for interrupting, but the way I understand it is they can, that is, states can now, according to the Supreme Court, don't have to pay for abortions with federal tax dollars.
Yeah, that was the South Carolina case that ADF was
including Medicaid dollars. So Planned Parenthood is not going to get money from certain states because they do abortions.
Right.
And so this was a big success in the Supreme Court, and I think it's going to be it's in this legislature.
And there's other things that it does. It permanently funds the finishing of the wall.
Yes. There's enough money to do that. It also pays for a lot of new ICE agents and Border Patrol agents. It really gives what's happened is that Tom Holman and his team have deported so many people and arrested so many people that they have run out of money and space and the means to actually do what they need to do, everything they need to do.
Yes, right.
Yes. So it's in the bill, and that's really, to me, that's huge. The one thing that is in flux, and I wish I could be more specific with you, it's benefits for Medicare benefits for illegal immigrants. There's arguments over that. The House bill had removed those, and now they're playing with that in some way. And also SNAP and all kinds of benefits to illegal immigrants, that's still being messed with.
Yeah.
So, but it will, or discontinue President Trump's tax cuts from his first term. And that is important because my understanding is, and I've heard different figures, that for the average family, your taxes would go up $3,000 in a year.
Yeah.
If this doesn't get passed, and that's a big deal.
All right, Sandy. By the way, we just learned that Jimmy Swaggart, the evangelist, he passed away this morning. What age? 90?
90 years old.
90 years old. Jimmy Swaggart, very popular television preacher basically in the 80s. It was his heyday, 80s and 90s. Then he got into a scandalous, sad and tragic scandalous situation that he got himself into with a prostitute, I think, and it was tawdry.
Remember, he was either a first cousin or a brother to Jerry Lee Lewis.
Yes.
Who was not constrained by moral issues, but he was a Wildman,
Right.
and they're both, very musical, but just kind of a famous part of their family.
We Wildman resent you lumping us in there with.
Well, that's right.
Our name
It was
does
a
not always.
Wildman.
No, our name does not always describe us. So please be careful there. So anyway, my grandmother, I've told this story before. My grandmother, this is back in the 20s, 1920s. My grandmother then got married. She married a Wildman. That was his last name, my granddaddy's last name, Wildman. And then she decided, I don't want to carry this on for the rest of my life. All the jokes that come with it, like I hadn't heard them. And so she just started writing our name different.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
No, she didn't register with the government or anything. She just started writing it different, and it changed. And so from then on, our name changed.
Yeah.
I know. So I don't know. I may be undocumented for all I know.
I was gonna say.
I may be.
You just told on yourself. There's
I may be
ICE
sent
agents
to Alligator Alcatraz.
That's the door.
ICE agents at the
Get
door.
ready for it.
One big
Alligator
beautiful
Alcatraz.
deportation.
I don't know, but Jimmy Swaggart, he did, repent of his sin, and he kind of went away. He didn't make many public appearances after those scandals back then, and listen, he was a very. I enjoyed watching him preach back in when he was in the 80s, basically in the 80s. He was a very, very powerful, dynamic television evangelist. I went to see him one time in person in Birmingham. And the whole Coliseum there was full. I'm talking about 15 or 20,000 people there. So that shows the height of his popularity back in the day. Well, listen, Sandy, what's coming up on your podcast? When's the next one?
Well, the next one is tomorrow, and it will be the one with Robbie George that I just mentioned,
Okay.
Professor Robbie George of Princeton, talking about truth. And then on Friday, I'm going to do something light for a change. No,
Okay.
actually, that's not true. To Friday, I'm actually, because of 4th of July, we're going to replay. We did a real long expose, or I think cool, I loved it, of the 250th anniversary of the Army, which happened a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we're going to replay that because it's full of music and fireworks, and it'll be
Okay.
a great way to celebrate. So that's this week.
Okay, folks, if you want to get Sandy's 3 times a week podcast, they're excellent. Go to afr.net, click on the podcast, and you'll see the banner for Sandy Rios 24/7. All right, we're going to take a short time out right here, and Steve Paisley Jordahl will be in studio in 5 minutes. Stay with us.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
The enemy has pulled out all the stops to try to destroy the family for a very long time. That's why the American Family Association stands boldly in the gap to protect and strengthen this God-breathed institution. Visit AFA.net today and discover the resources available for you and your family. And if you would, please take a minute to show your support. That's AFA.net.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. The Senate continues to debate President Trump's tax cut and spending bill as a key senator has indicated that they are inching closer to a yes vote. Aisha Hasni with the latest from Capitol Hill.
Senator Mark Wayne Mullen just told us that the GOP has the votes now to pass the big, beautiful bill, and that is with Alaska Senator Lisa Murkowski. Mullen tells us that the GOP actually already has the bill text ready to go. They're just waiting on the Democrats to finish huddling. The Democrats might put forward a couple more amendments, and then the Senate Republicans will put forward a wraparound amendment to clean this all up, and then it will go to final passage. Murkowski has been the key vote that they've all been focused on. She'd been on the fence overnight after the parliamentarian threw out language in this bill that was going to give Alaska a break when it came to Medicaid cuts.
House GOP Conference Chair Lisa McClain of Michigan says she expects some lawmakers to have disagreements, but says she's confident they will get the bill passed.
The family discussions get a little heated at times, but that's exactly what you're supposed to do, is represent your district, and that's what's going on right now. I am an optimist by nature. I believe we're going to get this out of the Senate. It's going to come back to the House, and we're going to pass it.
The Department of Justice is hitting Los Angeles with a lawsuit over its sanctuary city laws, claiming that the city's policies favor illegal aliens over American citizens. Bill Malusian has more.
The Trump Department of Justice says that L.A. sanctuary policies deliberately impede ICE from being able to do their job. And they say those policies are a violation of the Supremacy Clause of the U.S. Constitution. That clause essentially says that federal law always supersedes state and local laws. So here's a little excerpt that reads, quote, "The Los Angeles ordinance and other policies intentionally discriminate against the federal government by treating federal immigration authorities differently than other law enforcement agents and by disfavoring federal criminal laws that the city of Los Angeles has decided not to comply with. The Supremacy Clause prohibits the city of Los Angeles and its officials from singling out the federal government for adverse treatment."
And the Department of Justice has charged over 300 suspects in one of the largest healthcare fraud crackdowns in U.S. history. David Spunt with more from Washington.
Authorities say those charged live in Russia, Pakistan, the United States, all over the globe, and the alleged schemes involve more than $14.6 billion with a B in intended loss, but the FBI and others got involved to stop it. Only about $3 billion, 2.9 specifically, is actually gone. That's still a big number. Now, the false claims were submitted in many cases to Medicare and Medicaid. Dr. Mehmet Oz is the administrator which oversees Medicare and Medicaid services. His team prevented over $4 billion from being paid out to people who were involved in the scam. His agency revoked or outright suspended the billing privileges of more than 200 providers. Authorities say they seized more than $245 million in luxury cash, cryptocurrency, and other assets.
Expect to hear more in the coming days about peace talks between Israel and Hamas. Chris Woodward has more.
With the Iranian threat against Israel neutralized, at least for the time being, President Donald Trump is reportedly turning his attention back to the conflict between Israel and Hamas. Now, over the weekend, President Trump urged for progress in the ceasefire talks after saying Friday that an agreement could be struck within the next week as negotiations continue. Meanwhile, various news outlets are running stories of a renewed push for a two-state solution, one that would involve a so-called Palestinian state in addition to the nation of Israel. Talking about this on Washington Watch, former Minnesota Representative Michelle Bachmann urged President Trump to say no.
That's a division of the land of Israel. It's a proposal that somehow there will be peace from Arabs, that they will not make war against the Jews if the Jews give up their land. For over 30 years, this has been enshrined in what's known as the Oslo Accords. It's never worked. It was tried in Gaza. It's been a complete failure. And so now, once again, it seems like it's being resurrected. It's a terrible idea. It only leads to hostility. It's the antithesis of peace.
I'm Chris Woodward.
U.S. stocks are drifting today as Wall Street's momentum slows after setting record highs in each of the last 2 days. More news online at afn.net and on the AFN mobile app. I'm Rusty Pugh.
If we lose this cultural war, we're going to have a hedonistic, humanistic society.
Discover the story of the culture warrior Don Wildmon and how he went head-to-head with Hollywood, Playboy, the homosexual agenda, and the Disney empire. The movement Don started paved the way for Christians to boldly stand for truth and righteousness in a hostile culture. Watch Culture Warrior today for free. Visit culturewarrior.movie.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildmon, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Today's Issues on American Family Radio. Tim with Wesley, and we've got with us now in studio Steve Paisley-Jordahl.
Good morning, everybody.
And Ray's in Kansas City. So Ray, Tim, and Steve and Wesley. And Steve, we were talking about it. Jimmy Swaggart passed away.
Jimmy Swaggart passed away today. We don't know as of yet the cause of death, although I did remember last week reading that he was ill. So
I'll tell you the
90
cause
years
of death,
old.
90.
Yeah, yeah. 90 years old. So the interesting career. Maybe it's a good thing to, if you want to spend just a minute on this, I'd love to ask Ray. because he was a man that had a hugely successful ministry until scandal hit, and he was caught doing some sexual misconduct and everything, and but came back. He quit his church. The church said that he was not following the discipline that they
talking about the denomination.
Well, the church too.
He was in Assemblies of God.
Right. He left that denomination, I believe. I don't know if you remember, Ray, but tell me about what kind of a legacy does a man like that leave in your mind?
He preached the gospel for 70 years. That's where I have to begin in my thinking about him. And he and I come from different. Let's call it.
You're Baptist, and he was a Pentecostal, right?
That's right. We come from different parts of the Lord's vineyard, right? And so, and sometimes in my part of the vineyard, we like to throw cherries and apples at people from other parts of the vineyard, and there are some true differences between the Pentecostals and the Baptists. How do you look at a man's life who I mean, look, guys, look. He was this was back in the days of Jim Baker.
Yeah.
Right? And Jimmy Swaggart was huge.
Right.
So he didn't just fall; he fell publicly. They were talking about Jimmy Swaggart on Nightline, right?
Right.
He became the butt of late night comedian jokes. Okay, how do you come back from that? I'll say this much: his wife stayed with him. His kids stayed with him. His family stayed together. He never denied what happened, and he continued to teach, and he continued to preach. And I think the highest tribute I would pay to Jimmy Swaggart is, God gave him a lot of gifts, musical gifts, and gifts as a man on the stage. I know people called him a showman and so on. Well, he knew there aren't very many people who can come out in front of a crowd of 25,000 people and hold them in the palm of their hand. Very few communicators can do that.
Right.
Jimmy Swaggart could do that, but even that's not what I want to talk about. I want to say this, because I did listen to a number of his sermons. When he preached the gospel, he was clear as a bell. He was absolutely clear that man is a sinner and Jesus is the Savior, and there is no other hope for heaven other than faith in the Lord Jesus Christ. And I have no doubt that when Jimmy passed over this morning, he was welcomed by multiple thousands and tens of thousands of people who, humanly speaking, owe their conversion to his preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so I was thinking about this the other day, guys. James says we all stumble in many ways, okay? He stumbled big time on the big stage, and the whole world knew about it. But we all stumble in many ways. We'll let the Lord sort out how things are to be handled, but I wish to pay tribute to a man who, and Tim, this is another thing. He never compromised on what we would call the fundamentals of the faith. He was clear and strong on those to the very end. And I thank God for the gospel that he preached, because the gospel that he preached is the gospel that's true and that will save anybody who will believe.
And as someone who's needed that mercy many times, I know that God is a God of second chances.
Yeah, and third.
And
and fourth.
And fourth.
Fifth.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah. Just to echo or to expound, I guess, some on what I agree with everything you said, Ray, very eloquently said. Listen, the Bible teaches us clearly that we're to live a consistent Christian life in every way possible. That's our standard, right?
Right.
As Christians, the world out there, I'm talking about unbelievers who have not been saved, who not given their life to the Lord. They have no spirit. They're spiritually blind. Okay, all they're going to do at us Christians who try to live by standard, when we fail, and Jimmy Swaggart did fail, as you say, very publicly, they're going to mock, and they're going to use scorn, and they're going to point fingers and laugh at us. But you know what? That doesn't, because somebody fails to live out a standard they say they strive for doesn't change the standard.
Right.
All right? It doesn't change the standard. So just because Jimmy Swaggart failed morally doesn't mean the moral standard that Jimmy Swaggart was preaching about isn't still true. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right.
It does.
Now, the world out there, again, the unbelievers, they don't understand that, really. They just say, hey, look, you bunch of hypocrites. You don't even live up to what you preach for for everybody else. And I would say, number one, we're all hypocrites if you believe the Bible. That is, you do things. We're all hypocrites in the sense that we do things and say things and think things that we know we shouldn't. Right? That's the reason we have.
Well, that's why Paul says in Romans 7, I believe it is. He says that. How does he word it? Right in Romans 7. Is it
that which I do? That which I would do, I don't do, and the thing I don't want to do, I do. Oh, wretched man that I am.
That's Paul.
Yeah. He said that in Romans 7.
That's Paul.
So I'm just saying that I'm not diminishing at all the seriousness when we do fail, because, of course, there are degrees of failure when we living up to God's standard, the Ten Commandments, the Sermon on the Mount, that those are the standards that we strive to live up. Or why do we do that? We strive to live up to those standards because we love God. And God, we want to demonstrate our love to him by living in the way he says we should live. And so that every day we get up in the morning, that's what we should strive to do. And so I just wanted to say that. I wanted to say just because we fail sometimes doesn't mean the standard changes, even though the world will mock and ridicule us Christians when we fail to live up to the standard, especially somebody like Jimmy Swaggart, who was as known by millions and in the public eye. But the other thing is that who wants to be – I think it's unfair to define people by the worst moment in their life. Huh?
Yeah.
Somebody lives to be 70, 80, 90 years old, and now I know there are things that people do that are so heinous and wrong and terrible that they are defined, that they are defined by that moment, and that's just the way it is. But I'm talking about, quote, lesser crimes, so to speak. I'm talking about failure. I know when Ravi Zacharias passed away, and then the news was, about him, in the massage parlors. And you remember that story?
I remember the story.
Okay, and there was some bad stuff that happened there, I guess, morally speaking. And I thought that's sad and tragic, but it doesn't change what Robbie did for all those years in terms of his contributions to the Christian cause. You see what I'm saying?
I do.
So I hate to say somebody's defined by the weakest moment in their life where they fail. Go ahead.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, and to also be fair to the other side, and that we would also agree on too, not to diminish what he did, because there were consequences to what he did.
Right,
people
sure.
quit playing.
Yeah.
People quit donating to his ministry.
I understand. Yeah.
People cut off. A lot of people quit playing his sermons.
Right.
The newer ones or whatever.
Right.
There were natural consequences that came from the decisions that he made. But to your point, we don't know the timeline in which he fell into that. And so we don't want to dismiss the 30, 40 years of his ministry.
I know.
I just got a question.
Go ahead.
Well, it's going to take us a little bit off topic. It's going to keep us on topic, but different area of this. So where would he fall? Because I've heard of the name.
Who,
Billy
Ravi or Jimmy Swaggart?
So Jimmy Swaggart, I've heard of the name, but he's not as familiar with me as a Billy Graham.
But you're in your 30s.
Oh, is that what it be? Okay.
Yeah, it's a generational thing.
Okay,
yeah.
So then where would he fall in the same line in American history as it relates to the evangelist of Billy Graham versus Jimmy Swaggart? The reason I'm asking is because what I'm hearing is if he was that good of an orator, then he would be up there in the top 5 there with Billy Graham. Is that right?
Depends on what you're ranking.
Maybe
in terms of reaching people?
Yes.
That's hard to measure, and I'll let Ray comment, and Steve can comment. That's hard to measure. But
Our popularity.
Billy Swaggart's
Jimmy Swaggart.
Excuse me.
He blended it too. He said Billy Swaggart.
Thank y'all for correcting me. That was one of the worst moments in my broadcast.
And you will be defined by it.
You will be defined by it.
You'll be defined by it.
Oh man, y'all. Listen, Billy Graham, his ministry was over a longer period of time.
Okay.
It was like a 50-year crusade ministry, television ministry. Also, Billy Graham never had any
That's right.
hint of scandal.
No.
That's right.
Financially or morally.
And there were different types of ministry. Billy's was crusades, where you had everybody in person and the cameras caught thousands and thousands of people streaming forward to Just As I Am, whereas Jimmy Swaggart was on television, and you don't know how many people found Christ because of that. It's hard to measure.
Yeah. Ray, any thoughts on that?
Two things. Number one, you touched on what I think is the big one, is that Billy Graham stands in a category by himself for a lot of reasons. He preached to more people in person than anybody in the history of the Christian movement, and yet, and this is the thing. He started preaching when he was 17, 18 years old back in the 1930s. He died in 2018, so you do the math. Okay, that's many, many decades. And at the time of his death and in the years since then, Tim, there's never been a serious accusation of any kind against Billy Graham, morally, spiritually, ethically, financially. He would say, he'd be the first to say, I'm a sinner like everybody else. He'd be the very first to say that. But he lived by a high standard, and I think he deserved all the acclaim he's gotten because nobody's ever come out and said anything like that about Billy Graham. So all to his credit.
Do you know one other thing, an anecdote there? I read this, and I think I got this right. He would send Billy Graham, I'm talking about, because he was on the road a lot, but he would send people into his hotel room in advance to make sure there wasn't a woman in there that somebody was trying to set him up to take a picture of. You know what I'm saying? I remember. Do you remember reading about this?
And
in about 1940, or maybe it's after maybe it's the early 1950s, but it was in Modesto, California.
The Modesto Agreement,
the Modesto Covenant. That he and some other the guys on his team, which would have been Cliff Barrows at that point, and maybe George Beverly Shea.
The three of them,
and others on the team, they knew that evangelism had, going back to the days of Elmer Gantry, had been so mocked and ridiculed.
Right.
They made some covenants, and one of them had to do with the way they would handle money, and one of them gave birth to the very famous Billy Graham rule that you remember Mike Pence talked about that when he was vice president. That's where that goes back to that Modesto Covenant, that Billy would not be caught in a motel room alone, and he would send his people in because you never knew somebody might have set up
he wouldn't be caught anywhere. Out
he wouldn't be caught anywhere.
In public, if he was going to meet with a woman, his wife was going to be there.
That's called accountability, and that is very helpful. Now, I'd encourage everybody to read Romans chapter 7. I'll read just a couple verses here, and then I've got a poem that I want to conclude my thoughts on this subject with.
So this is
not that I wrote. I can assure you I did not write the poem.
We got a sermon here. We got 3 points in a poem.
Hey, that's a good point.
Coming up, Wesley Wildmon. Go ahead, Wesley.
Romans chapter 7 is what I was referring to earlier, and Ray was able to quote. It says, "For I do not understand my own actions." This is Paul writing. For I do not do what I want to do, but the very thing that I hate. Now, if I do what I want to do, I agree with the law that it is good. So now it is no longer I who do it, but it is sin that dwells within me. For I know that nothing good that dwells in me, that is of my flesh. For I have the desire to do what's right, but not the ability to carry it out. So the idea there is that you have to rely on the Holy Spirit each and every second of each and every day. And the way that I've summed up the Christian walk is through this little 3-sentence poem. And it says that 2 natures beat within my chest. The one is foul, the one is blessed. The one I love, the one I hate, but the one that I feed will dominate. And
who said that? That's great.
I've not been able to find the person who first
read it again now.
The two natures beat within my chest. The one is foul, the one is blessed. The one I love, the one that I hate, but the one that I feed will dominate. And so that's, for me, that summarizes the Christian walk, because we are born again, but we have not been eradicated from the flesh, and we've not been eradicated from this fallen world. And so there is a constant battle for
between
us.
the spirit and the flesh.
Between the spirit and the flesh. And so relying on the Holy Spirit, following his commandments, and having a good sense of accountability, which is what Billy Graham was a good example of for sure, helps us out. And then also, too, Ray, and you can comment on this. I know we've taken up a lot of time on this subject, but the reality is that being forgiven and asking for forgiveness is the essence of Christianity. And so obviously we don't want to purposely fail.
And Paul says that over and over again. He said, God forbid that I should cheapen grace by living immorally and then expecting God to restore
Romans
me
5.
and forgive me. Yeah.
Romans 5, exactly. However, for the Christian, that is the evidence of faith, right? Or being saved.
Let me add one or two things. Everything you said, Wesley, eloquent and profound. I want to circle back to Jimmy Swaggart and then make a quick application. I think this says I'll be done with my thoughts, but I want to say again, we all knew what happened to Jimmy. We all saw it, and I'm old enough to remember when he made that tearful repentance on TV that a lot of people mocked, but he stayed faithful to his wife and to his family, and they were with him to the very end. I appreciated whatever differences I had theologically, which were real, but whatever those differences were, the Lord can sort all that out for us when we all get to heaven. I appreciated the fact that he believed the Bible. He would not move away from that. He didn't give in to the winds of modernity that way. He preached the gospel. He was clear. And whenever I see anybody who gets into moral trouble, whether it's Ravi Zacharias, who's closer doctrinally to where I am, whether it's Ravi or Jimmy Swaggart or anybody, I always think the same thing. Wherefore let him who thinks he stands take heed lest he fall. That we should all, I feel like saying in the words of the old spiritual, it's me. It's me, O Lord, standing in the need of prayer. Not my brother, not my sister, but it's me, O Lord, standing in the need of prayer.
Amen. All right, Steve.
All right, just as we were coming on to this half hour, the Senate passed the big, beautiful bill.
Talk about it being in need of prayer.
Yeah. Well, it was a 50-50 tie, and Vice President Vice President Vance cast a tie-breaking vote. Tom Tillis, Rand Paul, and Susan Collins, Republicans, voted against the bill. It now goes to the House again for reconciliation, where they'll try to hammer it out. They say they want to have it on the president's desk by Friday.
Okay. So the three Republicans who voted no were Collins, Paul, and Tillis. Of course, Tillis
is not rerunning.
He's not. That's right. He's not going to run for re-election. Tillis from North Carolina. Rand Paul from Kentucky. You knew he was going to vote no because he.
Yeah, it's no on everything.
He's anything that sends us more into debt, he's going to vote no on. Rand Paul, I'm talking about. Susan Collins from Maine. I don't know why she.
Well,
she
Collins
is
Collins. She's going to vote.
She's a rhino.
She's a rhino, but they did get Murkowski, Senator Lisa Murkowski from Alaska, who generally votes with Collins. So she.
But
for the bill.
Vice President Vance was in attendance and had to be sitting to cast the tiebreaker because it's 50-50, and in that case, the Vice President has to, cast a vote.
But it's just as passed.
Yeah, exactly. All right, you're listening to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Tim, Wesley, Steve, and Ray. What else you got there, Steve?
Just, the president down in Florida, he's touring the big, beautiful prison, the alligator Alcatraz. By the way, so he put out a statement. He was on, I have something from him. He gave this to me personally. He told me this. This isn't for the world, but I'm sharing it with you now. This is what the president had to say about alligator Alcatraz Cut 14.
Welcome to Alligator Alcatraz, where everyone is welcome. You see what I did there? Chomp, chomp, chomp. We have the greatest gators. Nobody's ever seen gators like this. I get along very well with them, by the way, but we have the greatest and biggest and strongest alligators with the biggest teeth. Their teeth are bigger than Kathy Hochul's teeth. You know, I call her the bucktooth Botox bandit of Buffalo. But we have beautiful gators. I get along very well with these alligators. Have been known to handle bloodthirsty reptiles before. Just look at what I did to crooked Hillary Clinton. And we also have big, beautiful snakes. You know, you have the snakes out there in the Everglades. And if you escape, these snakes are going to find you. Alligator Alcatraz is open and ready for business. It's officially ready to go. Everyone is welcome, and no one will be left behind. That much I can tell you. And thank you for your attention to this matter.
Before we get sued,
$100 a ticket.
Let's be clear.
That's really not President Trump.
No,
that's a parody.
That's parody, folks.
That is Sean Farash, who's a conservative Trump fan, but he puts these things out.
What's his name?
Sean Farash, F-A-R-A-S.
He knows the alligators very well. Gets along with them very well.
Hey, Chick-fil-A was voted the #1 fast food restaurant in America as far as customer service. Is that right?
About by me? Or just
by you.
I voted too.
You voted yes too.
I don't know. It was just customer service. It was overall appeal.
Yeah, overall
appeal. Chick-fil-A followed by all others. Third was Panda. Fourth was Starbucks, Arby's, Panera Bread, Papa John's, Pizza Hut, Culver's, and Domino's rounds out the top 10s. The last on the list, number 24, McDonald's.
Really?
Yeah, they stayed on there.
Well,
no way.
Yeah,
it's not this one thing. It's not them. It's the ice cream machine. That's what.
That's right. It's never worked.
In-N-Out wasn't in the running. It must be part of all others, or they would have won hands down.
Yeah. Well, McDonald's is building new places, so evidently they're doing something right. But because every time I think about Chick-fil-A, I must follow with the words Chick-fil-A, my pleasure.
That's it, my pleasure.
That's right.
They do Chick-fil-A does do a great job of training their employees to handle the public, and their food's excellent too. So.
2 words: peach milkshake.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's almost 3 words.
It should not be. It should be year round, not seasonal. Hey,
that's
just
right.
want to remind. We'll remind people throughout the week, but this Friday, we will not have a live trivia program. We will have special programming. We'll have a Cultural Institute on George Washington by Stephen McDowell, and we'll have Dr. Ray Pritchard, A Few Good Men, special programming for Friday.
You gonna review the movie, Ray?
The movie.
May sing the song. I don't know. You got to tune in to find out.
That's right.
We're going to have a couple of patriotic specials.
There you go.
Because our offices will be closed for July 4th on Friday. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. Keep listening to American Family Radio.
Hello, everybody. I'm Walker Wildmon, Vice President here at American Family Association. Well, my brother Wesley and I were following in the footsteps of my dad, our dad, and my grandfather, Don Wildmon, by leading tours to places of the Bible. And so this next March, we're going to be going to